Welcome back, folks, to the Firewood Addicts podcast series. We got news today. I will introduce you to DeAndre. Go ahead, man. Say good morning.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me, Travis.
Our guest today is from Old Iron Acres, a budding channel. I'll leave the link down below in the comments for you to check him out. Reach out to me, and it would be a good time. So, rock and roll. DeAndre, what is a summary of your background? I know that you have shared on your channel, but I want to make sure that people watching know. Go ahead.
Awesome. Well, the quick and short of it's a hard one. I've got a video on that on the channel about it in depth, but I did about 15 to 18 years in Hollywood. I have a degree in architecture. I was an Eagle Scout, and I happily moved to Kentucky, where we bought a 73.5 acre farm that had been abandoned for almost 15 or 20 years. So I am fighting through the wild and growth, trees, and just trying to survive. Everything's out to get me, but happy to be here. So thanks, Travis.
Cool, man. And then, are you still in the Hollywood type field, or what are you doing outside of working on your farm?
Yeah, I actually still, I took about 10 years off, but I worked on some science fiction films last year. Luckily, I can work from Kentucky out to California. And for now, I'm happy to do both. It's a lot of fun playing in that industry, but I'd rather be sawing up some logs.
I hear you. I hear you. It's cool. I think that COVID was, I want to say, a blessing, but definitely changed the industry where there's so many people now who work remotely, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't need to physically be in the office to get work done. Trust me, I know what I'm doing, and I'll sit down and do it. I don't need to be in the office in California or in Seattle or in New York. Like, I can be anywhere as long as I have good internet. Anyway, um,
Yeah.
so tell me about on your farm, um, firewood, cutting trees. What is going on currently in your wood yard, and how did that grow into your love and passion and addiction to firewood?
Well, so we've got, of those 73 acres, there's probably a good 30 that are wooded, and they follow like creeks. And we'd like to improve the property so that it's more, you got to be a steward of your land. And so Mother Nature never is afraid to throw a wrench into my day and drop some trees on my driveway. So just getting out sometimes can be a challenge. um, and there's a lot of invasive trees. And so I haven't quite yet started selling wood per se. I've given a lot away to friends and family. I've given, whole trailers of bucks to friends that have wood heaters, boilers, and people that love campfires will come over and ask to have a tree. But I have this whole plan in my head from channels like yours, where I already have all the tools and the IBC totes, the tractors and the chainsaws. I've been using those for years, cleaning up the property. But usually I would just cut a whole tree down and just throw it on a burn pile just to get rid of it. And the other day I was like, wait a minute, that's some cash there laying around that I just lit up for a party, thousands of dollars of wood. I have a plan all in my head that I think makes sense, that where I'm going to take all of the downed trees on the property, cut them up, and get some exercise and sell them, make a little side cash. What do you think of that?
I like the idea, and
Yeah.
let's get into that in a second. But I want
Okay.
to follow up on something that you mentioned, the word invasive. What what tree species in your area are invasive? I'm curious.
Yeah, well, I could be a little bit wrong on this, because I'm learning all my species. You get a piece of property, and all of a sudden, every tree you learn has names and characteristics. And
Hmm.
this one has shallow roots, and this one has deep roots, like Osage orange, hedge apple, a mean tree with all the prickers, or black locust with
Hmm.
the big,
Yeah.
big spikes on them that'll go right through my
Hmm.
tractor tire. Learn that lesson. Um, So specifically, I'm talking about the honey locusts. I think they just sprout, spread. It's almost bush-like. Every 19 out of 20 trees in my closest to me, anywhere I stand on the property, are probably that. Recently, I got an attachment for my tractor, tree puller, and I'm just like a kid in a candy store, like pulling carrots. I just walk up, grab it with the like scissor front and lift, and so far they've been popping out. But again, I have this thing where I just don't like waste as well. I guess it's like an OCD. And so if anything's as big as my arm, it's like that's firewood, you know. And
Hmm.
some people like little rounds, and so I kind of imagine back to the firewood bundling. I kind of feel like I'm going to specialize a little bit of like this bundle will be a whole bunch of small rounds, and this will be more like silver maple, and this one will be oak or cherry, and kind of take in my background with Hollywood graphics, this and that. I've got all kinds of printers for my wife's company and marketing, and so I kind of want to label stuff up nice at the stand. You do a great job with graphics. I've noticed looking through your channel and seeing what you do. Is that a part of your background too?
No, no, no. All my
Graphics?
logos, I have a logo guy. I'm definitely not
Okay.
in marketing. I mean, I've done marketing comms before for clients,
Yeah. Yep.
and like now, but in terms of no, all that has been done by someone who has more creativity than me. I just have an idea in my head, and then I give him those
Yeah.
ideas, and he makes up like this logo in the background. That's all him too, and that's definitely not me.
Good, good,
Yeah,
good. It's good stuff.
yeah.
It's good stuff though.
Um, thank you, thank you. What other tree species do you have in on your property or in your area? Do you know?
You know, I really don't. I mean, I know we have sycamore, I know cherry, I know there are some oaks. We got one massive oak, some cedar, but the cedar, it's not like what I think of when I think cedar. I think big and bushy and gorgeous. These are these straggly little forest ones. They look a little rough, but cedar always smells great, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Love it.
Well, and why? Do you have a favorite tree in your area?
I would say I don't know the subspecies, but for sure locust. I had one on my property before, and had it cut down because it was dying, or one part was dying. It was like a
Yeah,
codominant type tree, and I burned that and sold it before I knew what gold tree that was.
yeah,
Unfortunately, now it's gone, and it's really hard to. It's like a hit and miss of finding it. But I think
yep.
my go-to in my area would be maple. Again, I don't know the subspecies of it. I should know that. I'm not a tree species expert. I wish I had
I
more.
get you.
I can, I can, I mean, to identify cedar is quite easy by way of smell, and then the foliage on the at the branches, right? And then I can identify alder pretty well by the leaves,
Yeah,
and maple by the leaves. But in terms of like if it's bucked up or in log form, it's already cut like down.
yeah,
I don't.
yeah,
I mean, the cottonwood, sure. I mean, you smell that too, and you know what cottonwood smells like. It smells like garbage.
yeah,
But the other species, I'm like, I don't know what this is, but it'll burn. So
yeah,
I'm gonna process it. So
yeah.
I'm cool with that. Um, in your in your yard. So you mentioned Mother Nature. So with their um, are you bucking up and processing, or do you plan to already down trees only, or are you kind of wanting to thin out the live trees and cut down trees that you feel would be beneficial to other trees by cutting them down, or like a mixture of both?
That's a great question, and I'm probably going to do it all. So we're thinning out areas where we're enjoying the land more. Mother Nature is donating them in her own way as they fall. Being a steward of the land, you want healthy trees. So anywhere I can thin like the invasive trees out and help the other trees to grow, I think that's just better. Um, I'd like to play around and get to a nursery. As a matter of fact, this is a funny story. So we bought this property and we thought there were 5 or 6 buildings on it. I've now found, I think, 18. There, but some of them are like tiny, like literal outhouses in the middle of the
Hmm.
woods, but they're like
Okay.
CMU block, and it's like it's a structure. And
Hmm.
then we've got 2 silos. No, but the farmers don't use the silos anymore. They've gone to a new technique for storing a lot of the stuff. We've got a grain bin that I rent out to a tenant farmer. Um, just all these buildings everywhere. So we were clearing out this area, and we kind of knew a building was there, but we didn't really know exactly what it is. It's a greenhouse, and it
Oh,
had it
cool.
had 25-foot trees growing right through the middle of it. Like, and so with good, I'd say good 10 to 12-inch trunks on it. So
Hmm.
last summer, a friend of mine came in from Australia and he helped me clean it all out, and we went around it. And I need to get it re-glassed, but I'd love to start, seedlings and such, and hedge trees to mark the property. And so, while so the everything's about the trees on the property because Mother Nature's out to get me.
Hmm. I hear you. Uh, I
So
I thought about doing an episode about sustainable firewood, and then I didn't
yeah,
like I filmed part of it, but then I'm like I don't know if that would make sense or to a lot of people because I feel that a lot of us get want free wood and we
yeah,
get free wood. Either you go out and get it free on marketplace, or you have friends that are or connections who are a tree service or arborist people that need to dump their load on your property type thing just to offload it and you get for free. Um, or there's down trees on your property, and I would usually be like, well, don't cut down a tree if it's live. I mean, it's living. Let it do its thing. But on the other hand, thinning out trees so other trees can grow better in terms of access to sunlight with the canopy, but if it's too thick, and then
having
uh,
enough
the
nutrients, all that. Yeah,
all of that, and then and I guess in my area too on the West Coast, like with like forest fires happening, and because of the with all the foliage on the ground that's drying and all of that, and the argument of having to thin that out too. I hear both sides, but I feel that I mean to each their own. I'm not going to tell you what to do in your own yard, but it makes sense to me your plan of attack of being selective of trees that are live and taking them out to support the growth of other trees while maintaining or to fix up and maintain your property how you see fit. And doing so, like you said, wanting to utilize that those trees that wood,
yeah,
it makes a pocket change. So you want to focus on bundles. Can I ask why
yeah.
bundles as opposed to like a face cord, all four cord, or however you want to sell it? Why bundles?
Well, because I don't know if my production will get up to that level. I don't think I need a Wolf Ridge firewood processor, a $200,000 machine that can shred 50 trees a minute.
Hmm.
I'm trying to go with the size of the property and how much it provides, and then I have to account in that we do have other projects. We're renovating barns, the greenhouse I'd like to renovate, and so it's not all firewood time. At times I wish there was more firewood time. It's just a balance. We've got 3 kids. That's a job in itself. We've got 3 businesses that we run, my wife and I. Got 2 employees. There's other things in life, as everyone has. And
Hmm. Yeah.
so the firewood, I see it as something where it's a great thing in the winter. It's a great thing in the fall, because you're not mowing. I typically mow 8 hours, 10 hours a week, and that barely keeps up with it. It's the kind of thing you don't think about when you're like, yeah, I want acreage.
Yeah, I gotta
Uh,
mow every day. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that was one of the biggest things buying the property was that nobody really told us about all the other costs of owning property. It's a little different if you just own acreage and it's wild because it's wild and you let it go wild. But we're trying to keep it somewhat managed, and so anyway, it's a different thing. But with the bundles, why bundles and not the cords or totes? That's what when I call to my friends, I'm like, yeah, they're like, yeah, give me another tote. We're changing the language here for in
Yeah.
firewood in my area.
Yeah. Let's do it.
um, which I'd like to talk to you about that too, because
Okay.
I noticed on your channel you're doing a lot of pallets, wood pallets, and why you haven't gone to the aluminum totes yet. But the
Hmm.
bundles, to me, I think there's more value in it, and I think it's easier in my area. I am on the fringe of rural, meaning that I'm about 25 minutes outside of a downtown area of the largest city in my state, Louisville, Kentucky. And the farms are disappearing here. In the 5 years I've lived here, I've just watched farms get plucked up left and right, up the street, down the street, and they're putting in these developments, 5 acre homes, nice neighborhoods, but it's not farmland. But they aren't going to go cut a tree down, but they're going to want their solo stoves running. They're going to want barbecues. They're going to want fireplaces. They all have stone bricked in fireplaces by the pool. They're going to need firewood. So why not make it easy? There's a hardware store just up the street, and they're selling firewood. And I've tried to figure it's sourced out of Georgia because it's on the ticket on the label, and which I find funny because they're trucking it in. And it's like, you know how those bundles that you see, it's
Hmm.
got 4 sticks in it and it's 7.95. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like the cost of it, it's nice, but they're gonna buy 3 or 4 of them at a time. So why can't I do that and make a nicer bundle than that and sell 5 times more? And that would make me pocket change and clean up my driveway.
So I hear you're saying, if you do the math, either in your head or on paper, selling bundles versus full cords will make you a lot more money.
Yeah,
Granted, if you're just selling at your firewood stand versus to deliver a cord of wood, you wouldn't charge a fee to deliver that wood. I mean, I guess the fee to deliver a cord of wood in your trailer or your truck, whatever, they would pay for your time and for your gas and give you a little bit extra for that. So you don't get that, but it's definitely more money. And I, for me, in my yard, I'm fine with sitting on inventory. I don't need to sell
yeah,
a high volume. I mean, I have limited space. I don't have what you have in terms of space. I do have a good sized wood or yard to put it
yeah.
in, but I hear what you're saying, and you lived in your area long enough to understand informally or formally your market and potential customer base of what they
Yes.
potentially could buy, and that makes sense. And you know what's being sold locally, um, and I think, and so have you figured? So then, if you jump into bundles, do you have? How are you going to sell them? Do you want to do a firewood stand? Is it going to be, or are you going to sell it to the gas station down the road, or how do you want to sell it?
Well, I've got 2 locations. I've got my office where I'm sitting right now, and it's a little over a mile from the farm. And both are potential places, and I might even do both. And as a designer, I've already 3D modeled up everything I want, like a cut list, have renderings of it, know the signage space, where to put a money box, how I want it to face. I've watched channels like yours, and I'm taking notes. I'm watching you, like
Okay.
how you set it up and what's working. And there's other channels on YouTube here that have their own versions, and I'm trying to take the best of each and then apply my own design and marketing technique logic to it. So yeah, I've got an idea where I have a high. The office is on a high traffic corner, and but being a mile away, I think I could just forklift a bin, into the back of the truck, or throw bundles in, come up here and fill it up, that kind of stuff. It has internet here, so if I have to put on a security camera, but I'm not really afraid of theft too bad. I'm sure it'll happen. But
Mhm.
so I think it could be very successful on the corner there. As far as going with the bundles, I kind of have a marketing, along with the marketing, it's my business strategies in life. And with the farm, I'm learning, when I started out, I would take a tree, just a branch, just branch in the yard. And I'd go get the heaviest saw I could find to run the chainsaw and cut it up into 50 pieces. And then it'd take 2 hours to pick up this little thing. And it's like everything I did was backwards because I hadn't thought it through or whatever. Now I just go grab the tractor, pick the whole tree up, and move it to where it needs to go. So going back to the bundles, I just believe in touching things as few times as possible. It saves you that time that you can never have back. So to me, placing the bundle for sale and letting somebody else handle it from there is my dream. I don't think I want to get into like being obligated with a local store to keep them stocked or check in. And I don't know if the value would be equal to the driving time. And that's where, your experience would come in, of how far do you drive for free wood? What's the line?
Yeah, I went way beyond my line this past weekend, and I don't regret it, but I to get free wood because I don't. Yes, I have woods in my backyard, but it's actually not not my property. So, and I don't want
Yeah.
to. Yeah. Um, in within my town or a neighboring town, but closer to where I live. I mean, within like 25, like max would be like a half an hour away.
Yeah.
Um,
That's a long
as
way to
close
go
as
for.
possible. Yeah. Ideally, obviously, you want it to be delivered to your home, but there has to be a limit of how much or how far you will go for free wood. Now, if it's going to be a premium wood, like a nice hardwood, that may be different. But if
That
you,
that's
but I'm
yeah.
not going to go out of my way to get like cherry. I'm not certain cherry, cedar, because I always
Yeah.
have cedar, and I don't need any more. I'm not gonna. I mean, I did pick up some cedar rounds from a guy down the road, but it wasn't far away, so that's not that big of a deal. And yeah, and that end, I need
So
to make sure that the wood is good wood. If you're dealing with someone who doesn't know wood, make sure that it's gonna be good enough wood for you to pick up and not have to pick up their garbage for them. You know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But anyway, go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah. You got to know what you're getting and from who. And I guess your best friend is Mother Nature when she blows something down in somebody's yard and they think of you.
They think of me, and I feel that I've made enough connections on social media and through sales from I call them my neighbors, but people who live around me. That when they have someone who has wood or got wood dropped or they have rounds, they'll contact me because they know I sell wood and process it, and then I do give some away um, to the community or work with them on making sure that they are warm during the winter time. So it is
Good.
nice to be able to be thought of um,
Yes.
type thing. So yeah, all sounds good in terms of bundles. We can maybe go back to that in a second, but you mentioned totes,
Yeah.
and I think us in the firewood realm are they're definitely a popular thing. The
So,
ITB totes that we used to stack and store and we deliver and are you in your area? Do you have access to a lot of those?
well, I kind of found the secret to them. Well, it's not a big secret, but I found my secret to how to get more of them. Is there a reason that you don't use them yet? Have you found them or tried them out?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a few. I think I have what, five or six or something. Um, when I deliver wood, when I do sell in larger quantities, it's going to be one ICB tote. I think the smaller size tote,
Yeah,
um, and the wood's going to be tossed in loosely. So, I
yeah,
mean, there's an argument of how much wood that is. Volume wise, I'm
sure.
going to go with between a quarter and a third of a cord.
Yeah,
But and I like totes when I deliver because a person may not know what a third of a cord is, or half a cord, or a full cord, but they can see my ad, or I show them an image of my truck loaded with a tote and how much
yeah,
wood that is, so they
yeah,
understand that measurement visually, as opposed to like I said, like third of a cord. I mean, that may not mean anything to a person who's just buying firewood for the first time or their fifth time, whatever. So
yeah,
I like using totes for that method, and that seems to work. Um, and for storing though, because I have access to a tractor with forks. That I can put forks on the bucket, but I don't use. So I could use that to move and stack or store, have them be on top of each other. And I have solid enough ground. I just don't. I don't. I I hate borrowing things. That's I guess my personal thing. I'd
right.
rather wait and suffer and then save the money and then buy it myself. I don't have plans to buy a tractor, but that and
Yeah,
ICB totes in my area, I don't know why they're somewhat scarce, and the price on them fluctuates between 50 and like 175. That would be with the cage and the bladder. Bladders I can find for I don't know like $50 or so, but I haven't found a source locally that I can get them on the cheap or for free. So I guess does that answer your question?
well, Travis, I'm gonna change your day.
Change my day. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, yeah. You gotta search a little harder. So my first IBC tote, I think I shook a hand and said, "Yeah, I'll give you $120 for it." And then he brought out the wrong one and he goes, "I'll take 75." And I was like, "Wahoo! This is awesome!" And I was ready to go back the next weekend and buy like two more. Cut to 2 years in, watching YouTube videos, and somebody slipped a secret out, and it was I think it was Adam with Hometown Acres. I don't know if you ever seen his channel.
Yeah, yeah.
And he gave out the secret. The secret is going to find a mulch yard. So if you go find a mulch yard, they apparently burn through these things with dye inside, and to spray down the chipped wood, and then it's garbage to them, so they'll give them away for free. My local mulch yard sells them to me for like $5 when they're like, "Wow, these are getting really hot with woodyard people and YouTube people," and so they're up to $10. Like, but I usually go in and say, "Hey, you sell them for 5," and they'll still give them to me for 5, and that's including the bladder. It's including, everything. And then you can watch a million videos on here of how you'd like to cut yours up, whether you do the open face or keep the top bar or get rid of it or rebuild it in your own way or whatever. But I love them because I do have a tractor for other functions on the farm, and it falls into my principle of never touch the wood again. Touch things as few times as you can. And not knocking what you said, I totally agree. I don't like borrowing. For 5 years, rather than pull out these trees with this tree puller that I was talking about earlier, I would
Mhm.
sit there with an axe. I'd take a chainsaw. I would wrap chains around it and try to drive away with it with the tractor. It was exhausting work. But anyway, the IBC tote, yeah, $5. That's a steal. I mean, and I'm happy to take as many as they'll let me have. And
Mhm.
so I will be going back there for more as hopefully I build my yard larger and start needing to stock some inventory. But which brings up another thing I hadn't even thought about. I'm really planning on selling greenwood. Do you think that will hurt my business?
To sell greenwood?
Well, I mean, I want it to dry a little bit, but like I'm not gonna my firewood stand because it's going to outdoor burn pits and stuff. I don't know if the wood needs to necessarily sit for 2 years for oak, like it's going inside a house or something like that. I mean, I think I'll fully disclose that this is lightly seasoned wood or something like that.
Mhm.
Do you think that would hurt sales?
I would say so, yes,
Yeah.
because when people want a campfire outside, they're gearing up with their s'mores or their beer, or their hot dogs, whatever, and then they go to the store or your stand and they buy a few bundles, and they want to burn, and they want that fire to light and to stay lit and have with the crackle pop or whatever and a nice flame.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it's going to, and if it's not seasoned wood, and they may not get the full potential of
Good
that
point.
wood. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's not. I mean, bundles in your area. I mean, buying bundles for heating your a room or a house is not cost effective, obviously. So I assume that you're going to gear towards selling in the spring and summer, to people wanting to burn outside.
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, I appreciate you willing to be transparent about that to your potential customers. But but even if they, I mean, they may not know what 20% moisture content in the wood means. They can
Yeah.
Google
Yeah.
it, but I guarantee you they're probably not gonna do that. So they're
Well,
going to
I
the
didn't
read
mean
Go ahead.
completely. I didn't mean completely green. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm sure there'll be an in and out process, meaning first in, first out.
Yeah.
As you know, so things will have time to dry. I just wasn't gonna get obsessive of, oh my God, it's at 16%, not 15%.
Yeah. I I think it's good to be aware of, and definitely use your moisture meter as your bundling.
Yeah,
Um, I just feel I don't when you're starting out, I want to make sure that your wood is dry enough where people are gonna to buy a few bundles, go home and burn, and they're gonna say, "Wow, this wood is better wood than the down the road store.
yeah,
It's better quality. It burns better and it's cheaper. I'm gonna go back to him again or the stand again, as opposed to this wood is crap. It's not burning. I'm gonna default and spend $2 more on less wood because I know it's dry enough. Um,
you have changed my mind.
well, I mean, try it too. Try when you're. I mean, it's worth your
One
customer
rack of
base
green and
potential.
three dry.
Oh yeah, try that. Or before you bundle it, start a fire with that wood and see if it burns. If it burns well, bundle away. If it doesn't burn at all,
Oh yeah,
maybe
yeah,
sit
yeah,
on it. Or if it's not that, if it's not dry enough, put one or two in a bundle.
yeah,
Good wood. I've done that before, and I don't feel bad about that. Because the other wood will allow the other piece to burn, and you should be fine. So
yeah.
experiment with your own firewood too. There's no harm in that. Um, but I think your approach is good.
That's awesome. So I take the bladders and I cut them low, about a foot and a half, 2 feet, and I take one of them and put it right at the end of my log rack where I buck up my logs. And I just toss my odd ends into it, and it just kind of builds with bonfire, scrap wood, fire, fire starter stuff.
Hmm.
And then I also cut the tops off to make tops for the IBC totes. I figure, wood can be okay outside, but why encourage rain to get into the nooks and crannies and rot? And so, um, and then I have little panels, keep a few pieces around. They're just handy scrap to do farm projects, material, and recycle the rest.
Gotcha. That makes sense. It's good to find a usage for those bladders and not just
We we
dump
all
them. You know.
we also are called Old Iron Acres, and so those bladders, I'll sometimes leave them, and I'm filling them with scrap iron. I mean, because I get stuff out of the woods. I mean, bicycles, motorcycles. The other day, what did I find? The flying wagon. What do they call it? The radio flyer wagon.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, T-posts, this, that, miles of barbed wire. I hate that stuff.
Ugh,
And
jeez.
so I just take all that and I drill just a ton of holes in the bottom of the IBC tote for drainage. So it doesn't, you know, you don't want pooling water, mosquitoes, things like that. And then I throw all this old iron in there, and I have hopes of just picking it up with the tractor because they get heavy, really heavy, and throwing it in the back of the truck and going to a scrap yard, recycle yard. Um, Gonna make a video on that and try to show the truth of my experience. I'm afraid I'm gonna do all that work, drive it all the way there, and get $1.35 for the $4 in gas that I spent driving it there.
Well, yeah, you're not gonna probably get as much money as you think you're gonna get, but at least you're getting money as opposed to going to the local dump and paying money for that weight.
That's true. That's true. So it's just a catch 22, and
Yeah. Is that how the channel got its name? By how much metal's in the ground and on your property?
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I joke that we have gold on the property because I lost my wedding ring, and
Oh,
yeah. And so then I bought a metal detector, and I went around and I realized real quick that that was useless because every 3 feet the thing would go off, and another, like, I'd dig up 12 inches and I'd find a fencing nail, one of those U nails. It was almost like they thought if they planted a bunch of them, they'd grow more or something. They're
that's
everywhere.
funny. That's
Yeah.
funny. Um,
Yeah, I think that back in the day in the 40s or 50s, the farms, that's just what they did. I mean, I've got axles, I've got cars, I've got dishwashers, I've got one hill that must have been their dumping spot, and it's just a landmine of frames of old items. And you know, we, again, being steward of the land, I have dreams of cleaning it all up, but it is such an undertaking. You know, we don't have $100,000 excavators, you know, this and that. I feel privileged to have my tractor and things like that, but
I hear you.
that's how it goes.
I hear you. I think it's a good use of the bladders, and I think that makes sense in terms of to cycle the metal, and to put them to good use. Yeah, yeah. When you're using the totes for firewood, are you stacking in the tote or are you just throwing them loose?
That's part of my OCD. I stack. I like a
Yeah.
clean stack. It makes it easy to see the inventory. I don't feel like I'm reaching into any animals. But I understand the theory of more air as well blowing through. You know, if it's loose, and it just works with the system. I only have a small electric splitter right now. I think the thing's pretty great for $200. I mean, I know it's not uh, uh, I know it's not like your model wood splitter. That thing just went crazy because I had my eye on that before COVID, and then boom, it doubled in price, and I was like, I can't do that. I know what it was paid, what the price was before. So
Mm-hmm.
one day I just saw one of these for literally $220, and it was like, uh, this is phenomenal. I happen to have electric down at my barn where I process the wood. Don't need gas. I put it on a dead man switch with your foot, so it's
Mm-hmm.
silent all the time except for when it's running. It's a nice little setup. I can't complain. I mean, of course, just like you, I'm sure you have your eye on something for the next splitter, and I do too. But we'll see where that goes, right?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like a chainsaw. The best splitter is the one that is working and
Yeah.
in your yard and it's paid for, I mean, to each their own, but at least it's working for you, and the wood that you have in or on your property is able to be split by this machine where you're not having any issues in terms of like knots or size, right? I assume.
We get into a few pieces that are stubborn, but you know, I'm not. I got enough. I'll throw that into a bin that's my firewood bin. That doesn't have to be perfect, and move on to the next piece, the next stick.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, I think that's a good purchase. I've had my eye on one too, just because why not? And I think
Yeah,
that would be the price point that I would pay, because they do get expensive.
they do.
But is it like a smaller one where it's on the ground, or do you have it on a table where you're able to work on it more? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of the small ones on the ground, but I built a custom bench for it. That was a fun little project. Raised it up about 2 feet, and it's a very comfortable level. I made a couple modifications to it because they go crazy with the safety and safety
Yeah.
first, but or safety third. I forget who says that, but the so like I took their handle and extended it with a beer tap handle. Sticks out more, easier to hit. Put a clamp on the safety button. Can't, so I don't have to hold my finger on it, things like that. And then the dead man pedal, the dead man power switch means that basically I can easily just hit the paddle with my foot and it'll split. So it's working great. I just wouldn't want to do I wouldn't want to do 4 chords a day or anything like that. That would be an intense day.
Yeah. I think your modifications are great. And for the amount of wood that you want to sell in bundles and what you burn on your property, um, it is working for you. And like you said before, you have other things going on, and firewood is just one part of what
Yes.
you do and want to get into. Obviously, a footer that would be bigger would be more efficient, but right now what you have is working for you. So rock
Yeah.
and roll. I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear you.
yeah. What about favorite tools? Because I was a little late learning about a hookaroon. Do you use a hookaroon?
I recently got a hookaroon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. What do
I
you
got
think?
it from. You know what? I have it, but I'm afraid to use it. I'm afraid I'm gonna hit my shin or my leg. That thing looks dangerous. That's a
Yeah,
weapon.
it
So
is.
I need to practice and get used to it. Um, because I think it's gonna be an asset tool, but I need to get over the fear of getting that thing stuck in my leg.
Yeah,
Is there
it could be. I
Go
could
ahead.
definitely catch that. I could definitely see. I've had thoughts of that as I'm swinging at something, going, "Man, that would go right through my boot." You know. But I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. I might be a little older than you. My back gets sore and bending down and picking up these heavy rounds. I'm all about, like, how can I make this step just a little more efficient and take a little less wear and tear on me. So the hookaroon, it's just so good at picking the stuff up off the ground and getting it up to waist level, where then you can manage and hold it. But the only problem is that I use it, carry it over there, and I don't want to go walk back and get it for the next one because I forgot it. But hey, that's all process and you learn, right? But it's
Yeah.
great at picking bucks out of the weeds and rolling stuff around and loosen it up, and it's a handy tool. That, and have you built your own log rack yet to cut bucks up at a comfortable chainsawing height?
You know, you read my mind, and I need to, because I have those three logs that I got in my backyard in the woods, and it's they're small enough where I'm gonna have my blade tip like right at the ground when having to buck them up. So
Yeah,
I need to build some sort of like X shape thing to put them on. I think would be my approach to that. A table, and or I thought about, I think the channel is called Firewood on the Hill. He had like a table, and then he hooked up an older electric saw,
yeah,
and he put it on like a swivel, and he would use that to buck type thing. I thought about something like that too, but I don't want it to devote that much space,
yeah,
where that would be the stationary. Whereas like a X cross thing where you have the log in the middle there, I could in theory fold that up and then move it someplace so that space would be available for something else. So I think I'm gonna do that and probably use dunnage um scrap to build it. I think that we would be strong enough. I just haven't
Yeah,
done it yet, but that's a good
yeah.
question.
It's a little different too because again we've got a tractor, so we can easily grab a log and put it on the table. Because if the log gets too big, why raise it up there? But it's again, it's. I like to try to go pick up the trees that are down, bring them back, get it on that rack. Then it's up in the air, and maybe I come back in a day and buck it all up, things like that. Or, um, but it changes it a little bit, making it easier. Just curious, your thoughts on electric saws versus chainsaws quickly. I have a steel 291 Farm Boss, and it has an 18-inch blade on it and or bar on it, and I hate that thing. Oh, it's my enemy on the farm, and it's just because I can't start it reliably or regularly. I mean, I can wear myself out and pass out, black out from the workout of pulling the darn thing going. And yeah, so I'll frequently go grab and do as much as I can with a tiny little electric, which is also nice with the instant on, instant off, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Your
I
thoughts?
think you would are yeah, I do. I have my mini chainsaw that I now use to mark, and
Is that one
that
of those little 6-inch blade, like hand ones?
yeah, yeah, it's handy because before I
Hmm.
would use my smaller chainsaw with the marker to mark a 16 and then bring out my bigger saw to
Yeah,
buck. But um to your question, my parents have a steel electric chainsaw. I don't know, like 16-inch bar on it, and I've used that on their property at least once, and it was nice. I think it had enough power, and I think that with technology, the power base is evolving, but the price point is, I don't know, arguably the same
yeah.
and maybe like a fraction cheaper than a gas powered one. So um
I feel like
if you
that's the
if
way to go, though, that you got to have one of these newer, higher voltage, larger saws. My electric is, I think it's 14 years old. It was like one of the first double Makita battery ones, and it's only got a 12-inch bar. But man, I'll stick that into anything I can first if it's in that range, just for convenience. I feel like upgrading to one of the new ones would add massive torque and speed and would be great. But um, yeah, so back to what you're saying with your parents, you're liking it then a little bit, but it's not necessarily an
yeah,
all day saw.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, I think it would be definitely good for cutting brush or small like sapling down. I think that was I was doing. I was using it to cut down like a tree that had like some saplings or the branches coming off it to cut it, as
Yeah,
opposed to using like loppers or hedge trimmer
yeah,
type thing.
or a tree
Um,
puller.
yeah, yeah. I I think with any saw, but I would say especially with the saw that doesn't have a lot of power, just to make sure that your chain is sharp
Yeah,
enough to cut through it. So you're not working the saw itself, the head, more than you need to.
that's a good point.
So I mean all all saws should be sharp with their chains, but I would pay more attention to to a saw that is electric, so you're not working the motor harder than it need to. That's just my assumption. Maybe the people down in the comments could agree or disagree with me down below, but it makes sense logically, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. So I have one comment on that with the electric saws, and it's kind of a safety issue that I've run into. Actually, 2 points. One of them is fatigue. When we're working on these YouTube videos, I'm concentrating on moving my cameras around and this and that, and I'll start getting fatigued and I'll make bad decisions. Bad time to be having a chainsaw in your hand. The second one is um, it just this is probably logical experience. I don't know if you've had any accidents with chainsaws, but I find that the small chainsaws are awesome, but they're so much more dangerous because they don't have mass. And that's where I do love that big old steel farm boss. Like when you're going through little brushy stuff and it's really bouncy and they tend to kick a lot, and you're tempted to even reach out with one hand to stretch for something or whatever, you'll get that kick. And 2 times I've caught a chainsaw with my hand,
Ooh,
like,
ooh.
protecting your face or something where something goes. And those are early strong lessons with a chainsaw and protective and safety stuff, right?
Big
have you
time,
had
big time. Um,
have you had any experience, any safety things? Hope you haven't had any hospital visits, stitches.
no, I haven't had any accidents with a chainsaw, knock on wood. Um, because I'm overly cautious, or I trust myself and the saw to do the work. And I wear my PPE whenever I'm running. Yes, I'm guilty of forgetting PPE when I'm on location. So
Sure.
if you're going to be running a saw, make sure that you have everything you need, from your fuel, your bar oil, your tools, and your PPE. Is this
Yeah.
when you run a saw, you need to have it on. What I will say about electric saws, the one that I used at my parents' house, is because there's no noise. All the noise is the motor running, the electric motor, and then the noise of cutting the wood. There's no like vroom vroom vroom. So you're, at least for me, my mind thinks it's a toy because there's no motor running, because there's not gas powered. So with that lack of noise,
Yeah.
I feel that's not going to hurt me, but it is going to hurt me. That
It's
chain
got teeth.
could tear through your leg or your hand or whatever. So
Yeah.
that would be one thing that I may not want an electric saw
Yeah.
that I would use regularly. Because maybe it would, I would get used to it where my mind would switch. But as right now, because I don't use one every day or every other day, whatever, um, it's just because there's no noise. My mind thinks it's a toy, and then I would be potentially less cautious.
Yeah.
Where that's definitely not the case.
Yeah. Yeah. You just got to be aware of what you're cutting into. And I don't know, with more experience, you learn to respect it, I guess.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. Is there a saw in your mind or in your horizons that you would like to upgrade to?
Ooh, that is a good question. It would probably be that larger electric, but like you said, they're priced stiff, and I've got so many tools on the wish list for the property, so many projects that it hasn't hit that critical point where I'm really in the market for it. But a bigger electric saw would be of interest, just because they're nice to have in the gator, driving around the property, clear a path, save the day, without all the complications of gas and
Hmm.
whatever. But I mean, I do like my farm boss when it's running, and I'm hoping as the wood yard gets more productive that I'm sure, hopefully with more use, it'll be friendlier towards me.
Do you feel that, or have you attempted to tinker or to try to fix your saw to make sure that it's running when you want it to run, or have you taken it to the shop, or do you know what's wrong with it? I'm curious.
Um, so I'm actually interested because last fall I did a full maintenance on it, and owning the property. Before this, I'd never done major oil changes to any machinery or anything, and so like we did the zero turn full maintenance, and we did a side by side full maintenance. So this year I really went crazy in the fall, maintaining all of the saws and everything. So I bought new fuel filters and tried to do new air filters, stuff like that. And so I haven't gassed it up and given it its shot. It's coming up here soon. And I'm curious to see if it will perform better. I'm a lot more interested in that now. It's so easy with YouTube. Watch a video, and learn to do it
Yeah.
yourself. It's not as anywhere near as scary, I mean, as I thought all of this stuff would be. climbing under the gator to change the oil. It's really not that big of a deal. It's like turning a screw
Yeah, I think there's a lot of
with a
us
lot of
that.
messy oil.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's good to have an understanding of the basic maintenance of a small gas engine, especially
Yeah.
a chainsaw when you're doing firewood, or have it. I mean, maybe you don't have the time, so you just take it, whatever, have an issue, just go to the shop.
Yeah.
But for like small things, I think to save yourself the time and a little bit of money, and learn about your saws, um, enough where you're not in the shop every other week. I'm gonna learn how to tune my saw soon. I got a tack sent to me by my buddy Tony, and I'll using that to kind of figure out where to turn the screw in the eighth of a turn or whatever.
Oh, the
That's a skill
carburetor
too.
tuning.
Yeah, tuning carburetor,
Nice.
because I think that that's definitely a factor. I don't have the ear for it, to tune it. And I've tried it before with like my weed eater, and I
Yeah.
think I messed it up. So I mean, definitely to tune a carburetor is a skill, but I think like basic knowledge of the saw and how it runs, or like maintenance type thing, is good to know. Um, yeah, yeah,
I'm trying to change my mind a little bit on this stuff where normally I would be like, yeah, I'm just going to let somebody else tune it for me. But it's like, hey, if you're going to take it in for them, if it's, let's just say $200 for them to, I don't know, $100 for them to tune it up. Why not really screw it up and make it a project for them for that $100 and learn something? I learned that kind of from Rock Hill Farms. Brock, it's a good of channel I enjoy. Um, I always am very soft with my tools because they're mine. I want to protect them and keep them and whatever. And he would just like drive his tractors into stuff that I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing? Don't do that. And it's taught me to be rougher with my equipment because it really handles it. But if you don't stick your hand in there and learn how to twist that carburetor once, you'll
then
never
you're not gonna.
learn.
Mm-hmm.
So why not
Mm-hmm.
try it and then go cry to the shop and have them fix it?
The shop, and they're like, you like, what did you do to the saw? You should not be a
Yeah,
saw owner.
yeah,
You
yeah.
ruined this beautiful machine.
Oh, how
I
could
hear
you
you
do that?
saying, yeah,
So,
yeah. I think, I mean, when I've had things fixed or found someone to do something for me, like a contractor, etc., I've approached it where I won't pay you to do this service for me, but can I look over your shoulder? Can I watch you do it without being creepy and ask you questions? I want to learn what you're doing and your experience, lessons learned, best practices to do whatever you're doing. So not necessarily not hire you again, but
yeah,
so I just have general understanding, knowledge, of how things are fixed, how things are done or
yeah,
maintained, etc. And a lot of people are cool with that, especially if they're they're like self-employed, or like side gig. It's the shops that may not be into it because they want you to come back to
yeah,
service,
yeah,
or type thing. So I mean, to find that balance, but I think that most people would be receptive to you wanting to learn from them, as long as you're not like in their face, or
yeah,
or asking too many questions where they can't actually do the work for you.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
think that that is a good approach to it, to hire someone who knows what they're doing, and then watch them and ask a few questions, and learn. And yes, YouTube is a great resource, as well,
I feel like
but
YouTube is the
in person.
matrix. I feel like
Yeah.
YouTube is the matrix where you download how to fly a helicopter, in the movie. Here you download how to fix your chainsaw.
But a lot of us, I mean, obviously, each one of us learns differently. One thing to read a book, or watch a video,
Yeah,
or whatever. But I think a mix of, at least for me, a mix of watching it on YouTube, like several episodes on different people how to do certain things, and then the hands-on by myself. Or if I still get confused, or I still don't have the confidence level, then watching someone who knows what they're doing do it, and then, oh, okay, that makes sense. It's
Yeah.
that live aspect, the in-person aspect, I think is key
One,
for me. But that's just me though.
yeah, one thing I got really lucky on with our property is we have a tenant farmer, Farmer Joe, and he actually farmed our property for 40 years before we bought it. So he knows all the secrets. As I say, he knows where the bodies are buried. And but as a farmer, he knows, I run to him all the time because he, he's the guy that answers like, oh, that switch on your tractor, it does this, where it's like, hey, my PTO is stuck up, I don't know what I did, and he's like, oh, you got to release the tension knob, or I don't know what, or stupid stuff. I'm sure I asked in the past, but now I know, but he also has the ability to repair all kinds of equipment and has that know-how. So meeting that right person, but that's what sucks so bad, is that you can't just go down to Walmart and get that guy. You can't, you gotta go out into the wild and meet that person that has run chainsaws and has trailer hitches and whatever it is that you're into and need to know how, and uh kind of like a mentor in a way. But it's
Hmm.
awesome
Hmm.
when you get the right guy.
That is nice, having that asset, someone that you could go to close by, and in theory, they're not going to charge you for the advice. I mean, here have a neighbor who's a mechanic and has helped me before, but even if I ask him a question about something, he's going to want a favor back or
Yeah.
some money involved. Like I wish more people would be willing just to answer a question or help, and it's free. Like, yes, your time is money, but just be a a kind person and willing to share your knowledge. Um,
Yep.
I would say my dad would be my mentor person, or like my farmer Joe, but he's at the age right now where if he has something that needs to be fixed, he's gonna go to the shop because
Yeah.
he doesn't have the want or like he'd rather be in his garden than work on his lawnmower type
Yeah.
thing, to spend more time doing things he wants to do as opposed to spending time fixing things. So I can ask him questions, but his answers to me is going to be go to the shop, which that's why I'm asking you. I don't want to go to the shop. I want to fix it because I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's a tricky one there.
for sure. Um, is there anything you feel is lacking on YouTube, or anything that you want to share um uh on Firewood today with us?
Travis, I'd say, I'm still a little green myself, like my wood, at this, and just trying to find my own path through it. And I thank you for your channel and the information you share is on your journey. And I mean, I've learned little tricks here and there with gathering the wood and what works for me. I'll tell you, this is off topic a little. What was interesting is learning about burn piles and to burn all the tops, all the trash wood, all the sticks. Um, just in my local area, you have a burn ban that goes from May 1st to October 1st. That sucks to not be able to get rid of this wood, and it accumulates, and it's hard because you don't want to be moving it over and over. So you put it in one place, and we have a hell of a bonfire on October 1st. I mean, it's 50, 60 feet tall. The flames, it's as big as our largest silo, and great social thing. But that's just because it's all that little garbage drying all summer, and they won't let us burn to get rid of it. But I had to learn that about the locals, not knowing that I couldn't burn all year round. uh so anyway, yeah, it's a great experience, learning through all this. Love using the saws, gets your blood pumping and the exercise. You feel good for recycling the product and doing something with it, rather than just letting it rot. Not that, that's got its place on my property too, for habitat for quail or rabbit, things like that, things my dog likes to go and get all dirty chasing. But anyway, I don't know if I answered that or not, but I hope I did.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point of learning as you go, um, and using YouTube as a resource. But I think you, like me, have an understanding of um, it's working for what I do in my wood yard, and as I evolve and learn, I may change how I do things. But as of right now, I'm content with how I do things, and that's because
Yeah,
it's my wood yard. And other people can comment or judge, but they're not in my wood yard. They're not
yeah.
using the tools that I use, and you could comment or judge, but that's fine. But you're not me, and you're not here. So um
My wife and I
yeah,
have a my wife and I have a rule that we share, and it goes through all of our businesses and through our family. We call it the 80-20 rule. And all it means is that you tell me that I look better in red than blue. I say thank you. And then I take it and I go 80-30%. Let's throw 80% away and keep 20%. And that might mean, hey, maybe this isn't the right blue for me to be wearing today. So, but I don't really care that you think that I should be wearing hot pink or whatever. So, anyway, YouTube can be like that, but I think everyone should leave a comment about your hat down below, and we'll see what they say. But yeah, the comments are awesome. I enjoy every one of them, even the nasty ones. They don't understand that it's raining and I don't feel like being out in the rain today. They don't know that my child's been projectile vomiting and I've been awake for 48 hours, and that's okay. I appreciate the comment and them being a part of the community. And that's really the cool stuff. Like what you're doing here with this podcast, I thank you for having me here. And it's just it's awesome because you're making a community, and it brings people together and we all can learn from each other. So maybe your Farmer Joe isn't literally next door to you. He could be in Texas, but there's somebody out there that I got a girl that's telling me I'm running my tractor wrong. Kind of 80-20 that and go, okay, I'll be easier on it. I'm not going to stop what I'm doing though. But
yeah,
it's a part
yeah.
of the community. It's great. I love it.
I try to foster a firewood community, share knowledge, which is what this podcast is about, and supporting others as opposed to shunning people away. There's enough, um, yeah, to create an environment where we can learn and share together, um, because there's enough uh, a space for that. So yeah,
This place is
uh,
huge. Everyone can come play.
exactly, which is why I like YouTube. Um, can you give us, before we sign off, can you give
Yeah.
us a little snippet of your channel?
Yeah. So Old Iron Acres is about me and our family renovating this farm that we found and the adventures, if you will. And it goes through lots of stuff because we have buildings to renovate, land to renovate, trees to clear out and revive. Who knows if we'll get to goats and chickens and things like that, like everyone asks every day, meaning my family and my wife's family. But for now, I think firewood is the top one that we're going to attack, and because it makes sense. And also renovating, like I need to get some water down to a low barn, and that's going to be a bit of an adventure because I've never done it before. But that's the great thing. I hope that my channel is entertaining and people enjoy watching the struggles because I have no fear of putting my fails out there because that's life. It's just a part of it. And but there's successes along the way. And the coolest thing is, even though I don't have huge subscribers and all that, it's fun to go back and look at the videos and just see the progress from where we came. There are views on our property that didn't exist when we bought it. There are buildings that have been discovered. There are things that have been fixed and repaired for pennies. There's things that have been fixed for thousands of dollars, unfortunately. But this is the stuff that hopefully we're educating people as well in our own special way. So I hope that was brief enough.
Yeah,
hard to
thank you.
hard to cut it down.
I hear you. I hear you. You definitely have the personality to be on YouTube. And if people are watching have not subscribed to your channel, please do so. It's very cool to see what you're doing and learning through the process and how you evolve your property. So go and check out Old Iron Acres on YouTube. DeAndre, thank you for your time today. I appreciate it. Go and say goodbye
Yeah.
to us.
Yeah, no, just thanks for having me, and hello everyone. If I haven't met you before, and I look forward to building communities and seeing you on Travis Does Firewood, and keep cutting. This is great.
Rock and roll. Well, thank you for being on the podcast. If you all want to be on the podcast too, let me know. If you want stickers, let me know. Show the love on my Buy Me a Coffee account. Not required, but it's there. But yeah, thanks again for everyone for watching. Until next time, stay safe. Keep cutting. Cheers.
Keep
I'm
cutting.
gonna